We do it all again. It's Footy and Frothies. Daggy Barney with you, as always, to get stuck into round 4 of NRL action and making his long-awaited return to commemorate 2 tries to Jake Clifford and the Raiders losing the Ollie Daily double is Oliver from Rugby League, in my opinion. We'll start with you down there looking very alluring. How are you, mate?
I'm well, so hopefully the audio and the visual isn't too bad and the phone doesn't die during the recording, but I've got my charger right next to me here, just in case I need to plug it in. So I'm ready to rock and roll, baby.
Very good. And how are you, Barn?
Riveted. Last 10 or 15 seconds. No, going pretty good, man. Been out in the truck, so getting a bit more exercise than recent times. So
you are looking very fit these days, Barn.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, I've been working hard on the diet, and the alcohol keeps catching me on the weekends, but that happens.
It is the battle we fight, don't we? And perhaps on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, possibly.
Anyway, what's caught your eye?
How are you going, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm great. Yeah. Ticking along.
Treating you decently?
Yeah, everything's going all right. Just put together a fun package on Turbo's legs falling off for the upteenth time the other day and chugging along well. Looking forward to this weekend of footy after an interesting soaked weekend of footy last week. Yeah, not much other news happening. There's good racing on, etc., etc. Of course, check out chelseatips.net to find all of my thoughts on the racing as we head to Doncaster Day this weekend, my favourite race of the year. Very good card coming up.
It was a strange weekend, wasn't it? Quite a few upsets and some weird stuff happening.
Yeah, I think, and there was some pundits tipping it to be around, in some circles saying use your joke around this week because there'll just be some slaughters, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, right.
So we will review that. Ollie, I haven't seen you since preview time. What's caught your eye this year so far?
What's caught my eye this year so far is that I don't really know what to make of this competition yet. There are teams who look absolutely fantastic one week and look like absolute dog shit the next. I'm very worried as well because my team's just won 2 games in a row and I'm very pessimistic about them. And people have been saying lots of good things and hyping them up, and everyone I see says nice things about them, and then they get shocked when I tell them, no, they're shit. They're not going to do any good. They're going to drop off any minute now. But so I'm a little bit pessimistic, and I don't know. We're at that point where we are usually every season where everyone sort of thinks that their preseason tips are gone absolutely down the toilet, but then we sort of coming throughout most seasons that the longer the season goes on, what a lot of people think originally does tend to sort of happen. So we're still in that stage where everything's finding itself out, but I think there are signs that we're pretty close on the money about a few of the things we spoke about in the preview show.
Still happy to stick to your Canberra and Newcastle guns?
Yep, at the moment. So what makes me confident about the Canberra tip? I was actually looking at the round 4 ladder for 2024 today, and the West Tigers had the exact same record that the Canberra Raiders currently have. So, hey, it's happened before, literally last year, so it can happen again.
All right, well, I'll ask you your top and tail tips from last year as well. What are you doing with Penrith and the Tigers this far into the season?
I'm not really changing too much. You don't really want to count Penrith out too early. With Nathan Cleary back this week, I think this week's going to be a big week for Penrith. If Cleary stays fit, seeing how quickly they can get back to their previous form, because if the best player in the comp is back and things still aren't sort of clicking or working as they were before, then that's when there's real signs of worry. So I think a loss to the Cowboys this week could be sort of a sign where maybe it is all over. With the Tigers, I've been really impressed with them for the majority of the year so far. I was obviously you would have been as well disappointed with that loss to the Warriors in a game that I thought they probably should have won. I didn't have them in my bottom 4, of course, at the start of the year. didn't have them in my top 8. I'm not quite ready to put them in there yet. I want to see a few more weeks of rugby league, but they're not going to be far off, I don't think.
Barney, any questions for old mate there, or should we just chug along?
No, I think you've covered them off pretty well. I'm of the same opinion as Ollie, to be honest. I think there's still going to be another 2 or 3 weeks of this seesawing in the forms of these teams, and then probably come round 6 or 7, you're going to see things. 7 or 8, you're going to see things really level out, and then you'll get it. You should be able to get a bit of a baseline come round 8 and 9.
Yeah, that's generally when people really click into gear. All of a sudden, Origin spots are up for grabs as well. So I think you're probably right there. We'll get into some news then. Very quickly, we'll touch on injury stuff. Now, Mitch Moses, forecast for round 9 seems to be the latest update today, whatever that means for Parramatta. Tommy Turbo, obviously 4 weeks with an MCL-ish. I don't know why he was left on the field for that 20 minutes. We'll get to that game. Bizza, Brian Tuo, 4 weeks as well with a hamstring, and Victor Radley, I guess the other big one, with a cheekbone injury. Now, there was a graphic saying there were some 60-odd players out on the weekend. I'll see if I've got it here. I'm not going to read them all. Let's see if I can get a bit of an update. No, I didn't save it. Why would I do that? Makes too much sense. Any other news caught your eye?
Not particularly. I'm glad Radley's probably got a couple of weeks off with a broken cheekbone. Might let him settle down a little bit after I think he's copped 4 KOs in 3 weeks back to back. Yeah. So you probably should have had a sit down even if he didn't have a fractured eye socket. But this might make him obviously have a bit of an extended stay. And yeah, really looking forward to see how some of these teams bounce back for some pretty lackluster performances over the weekend.
The other news, I guess it was, I don't know if it was announced today, but it was publicised today. There will be an NRLW Magic Round in Newcastle on the 2nd and 3rd of August. And to be honest, I'm half tempted to maybe go up and have a weekend on the piss and check it out because I can't make the good one. But I guess that's good for the women's game. And they did some very good numbers last year with the... Did they have the Origin there, Ollie? You'd know better than me. Origin or the International there in the pouring rain, and it all but sold out.
Pretty sure it was an Origin game.
Was that an Origin game? I thought there was like an NRL game there last year where it was absolutely teeming down, but it might have been.
It was a females Origin game played up at Newcastle. I'm almost certain.
Yeah,
I think.
The first one was at Suncorp for Magic Round, and then I forget after that. Must have been Newcastle. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's exciting, I guess, and there'll be worse ways to spend the weekend than in some Newcastle pubs. So let's see how that pans out. If the NRL want to reach out and get us up there,
they have some great.
Okay.
Yeah, they've got some great breweries there. Like I've been sort of around the stadium for certain functions and events over the years, and they've got some like absolute tip-top brewery. So I can definitely see why you'd host a weekend like that there because there's plenty of places to get drunk. And I think you guys can attest that's the exact same as in Brisbane, right?
Absolutely.
It's a shot in the arm the women's game probably deserves, realistically. They've just come... The amount that they've improved in the last 18 months has been ridiculous. And, yeah, you can showcase them up there for the 3 days or the 2, however long it's going to be set up for the Magic Round. It should be awesome for the whole setup of the women's game.
It's the best women's sporting product around. I don't think there's too much competition.
Argue with that.
Very good. We'll revisit that as we get towards August. Now, in terms of, I guess we've covered most of the news. Jerome Lowe is going to miss a week with suspension, as will Tom Gilbert. There wasn't too much else coming out of the weekend. Nothing for Reid Marnie or anyone else like that. So we will touch on those appropriate moments when we get the games, I guess. We kicked off on Friday night, 28-18, the Rabbitohs handed Penrith their 3rd straight loss for the first time since 2018, I believe. Yeah, Barn, what do you make of this?
It was the old-fashioned ambush, wasn't it? Really?
Is it an ambush when South do it every week?
Sorry?
Is it still an ambush when it happens every week with the South team?
No, but up against the Penrith side that, you know, everyone and their dog expected to win at least by a couple of points. They're unlucky not to have points early, and then, you know, It's pretty alarming the way Penrith are getting opened up on the edges for mine. That's the one thing that you haven't seen in this run that they've had for so long. Like there'd be an odd game here and there where somebody had put on 30 points, but they're averaging 30-plus points in defence week in and week out. And it's the consistency of where they're getting opened up on those edges is it would be a very worrying thing for the coach. And it's more bad reads than anything else by the looks of it.
I agree with that. And it's not, they are getting stripped every time on the edges, but the back end of that first half, the way the middle collapsed as well, we've not seen from Penrith. It was very concerning the way, who scored just before half time? Moali.
Yep.
For Ollie's multi. That was
a lot of that was a lot of smart work from Walker, really. He spotted up Cole all night, just running Kulamutangi at him and giving that poor kid nightmares for the next time they come around. I don't think he'll sleep the night before if Kulamutangi's named in the side and they're playing each other, because he spotted him up on that many occasions early in the game and he had nothing left at the back end of the game.
Oliver, what do you make of this?
I thought it was the greatest game of Dan Laurie's career. He was absolutely fantastic. It was like Andrew Johns playing in Origin 2 2005. The word I'd use to describe Penrith, looking at it, I didn't have time to write notes, so I can't go too in depth of anything, just sort of off memory. Penrith just looked completely disjointed. And that is something that is, I think, very worrying, because I know people talk about how Cleary's out and Edwards is out. Cleary is out every year for patches, and this is the worst Penrith have ever looked without Nathan Cleary in the side. I know they've lost games without him before. Honestly, I thought, and I'm not.
I will say this: Cleary would not have saved Penrith on. Cleary would not have saved Penrith in that first half.
I don't think they win that game at all.
No.
But like a player like Isaiah Yeo, I thought would provide a bit more direction, which he didn't really. Again, he's a lock, so it's not his job, but he has done so in the past when Cleary's been out, been sort of that first receiver and that dictator of play. You bring up the edges, I think they probably look the worst for Penrith. The only person who I thought maybe had a couple of good moments throughout the game was Paul Alamotti. But other than that, completely disjointed. What I'll say about South Sydney, though, is, hey, I tipped them top 4 in the preseason, and they've just beaten the defending premiers. So,
and they've had their backs against the wall for the entire start of the season, realistically, and they're tough draws still to come. But they're proven just through energy and effort. Like, they dominated that first half on the back of energy. They were just flying out of the line, trying to put shots on. As I mentioned, they spotted up Cole. They spotted up Talia as well. They just made them guys tackle Totola and Keon Kulamutangi all night, and they just were sick of it after a while, which I don't blame them for.
It's a great week to be.
They just didn't keep up with Souths in that first half. They got dominated. And Souths were pretty poor in that second half, and I think a few other teams probably would have come back and beaten them in that second half. But
all I'll say,
they were super good in the first half.
On that point, if they award that Leo to try, I almost think Penrith win.
Quite possibly.
I think they get home, but that popped Penrith's balloon in that comeback.
I don't know how that was not awarded.
It's a try. It was a try every day. I get the bunkers
backing up the on-field decision, but you can clearly see half his hand's still on the ball at the point of impact when it hits the ground.
Yeah,
it hasn't come away from his hand at all.
The ball squirted out the side. Yeah. The ball squirted outside because of downward pressure.
Vossi did make a little point of that.
A bit, yes. Vossi's not been happy with the bunker this year, which has pleased me. It gives me some nice quotes to use, but yeah.
Young Gray, man, he saved another 2 tries in this game. For such a small bloke, the way he just gets around the field, and his defensive positioning is right up there with some of the best fullbacks in the comp as well. He's always in and around. If he's not picking up the kick, he's, the man standing next to the bloke who's picking up the kick. He's always in the right spot when there's a break made. And even when there were some breaks made and they have one-on-ones with Gray, you think half the time it's a 50-50 battle, but it doesn't seem like that when this young bloke's got a one-on-one with someone. He just brings them down. Yeah,
he's absolutely tremendous. And the proof's in the pudding that he's kept his first grade spot. He's leading the Dally M, actually, isn't he? But
yes, apparently.
Phenomenal. And just bounces up everywhere in attack as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was Cody Walker's best game all year. Best game in a long time, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's that's probably gives Latrell a little bit of excitement coming back, playing down that left-hand edge with Cody hitting form right in time for Latrell's return.
Well, it was. I thought that, and my notes did read that like their left-hand edge looked the best it's looked in as long as I can remember, and they're about to throw the world's best centre back in, like at his best at centre.
They lost
Latrell's
AJ for a bit too, didn't they?
Yeah.
When he scored that try and popped his shoulder out.
But Latrell going there is just going to be. If you're a South fan, it's a great week. You've just beaten Penrith and you're getting Latrell back. Like, it's exciting times. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Jake.
and South's defence was actually surprising too. Like they were attacking with their defence at the back end of that first half.
Sorry, Ollie?
I said, yeah, and they're versing the Roosters up next. Like, it's pretty much a free hit at this point.
I haven't seen us appointed the referee for that game, but we'll save that for the preview with the apparent crackdown on the way.
Young Toya might have his hands full.
Yeah.
on the coming weekend. But
yes.
I thought Leota and Papali were pretty good for the Panthers team in parts. Cole and Jenkins. Jenkins has been really good for them. A lot of energy, good footwork, acceleration. So he looks like someone that's probably cemented his spot there. There'll be other people to go out of that side before he does. Cole, Jenkins and Yo were all very good.
Cole's a proper
Smith,
first grader. Like he was he's been outstanding every game.
Yeah, 100%.
You can't move Talangi in there or anything like that now.
Seems to enjoy the physicality as well for a bloke who hasn't quite filled out yet. So, he's very good. I thought Liam Martin and Lindsay Smith were easily Penrith's best two players on the field.
Agree. Ollie, any other takeaways? Anyone else catch your eye?
Well, the only other takeaway, I'm going to back up something that Barney was talking about before. Jai Gray, the little fullback from South Sydney. What is it with Souths and small fullbacks? Buddy, Clive Churchill back in the day. But of course, we all watched live and watched his greatness on the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Paddy's got a selfie with him, doesn't he?
Surely Jai Gray will... I'm sure they were mates and used to drink at the pub or something together. I'm sure Vinny was drinking with him. But, yeah, Jai Gray, it's just an apt little thing. You know, you talk about the little general... or you hear about the little general Clive Churchill playing for South Sydney, and now they've got another one come through the ranks. It's funny how these things happen full circle.
Your man Jai Arrow was great again.
I was about to mention a couple of South players. I thought Moali was up there with him. I thought they both had very good games. Humphreys has just cemented himself as a full-time first grader, and it doesn't matter even if they do want to move him on, he's going to get a contract somewhere. It's quite interesting to consider that he was a part-time player at Manly and never, like, obviously you're not going to take DCE's spot, but it's funny that nobody's come knocking before because his kicking game's right up there with a lot of them. His defence is as sound as any other halfback that you're going to find, and
well, we didn't really touch on last week. He played lock in the second half last week as well and made 45 tackles.
Yes.
And you're right. But Bennett was on top of it because apparently he walked into that team and Bennett said, "You're my halfback," even after they'd signed Dodd.
Yeah, it was after about 2 training sessions. Apparently,
Bennett fell in love with him. So turns out the bloke knows something about rugby league. Ollie, you're saying?
Yeah, Jamie Humphreys is probably the fittest, strongest halfback I've ever seen. That bloke has guns.
Absolutely.
That's it. That's all I want to add about him. He just looks like an
chiseled out of granite, as they like to say.
A bit like Ollie's hair tonight.
Gray up there as well was a bit of the Ray Martin style going on. We mentioned how good Gray was.
South Sydney supporter Ray Martin.
He is.
Just seems to improve week on week, and I'm super happy he's kept his spot for the time being. Whether it's the same, we can say the same in 4 or 6 weeks. We'll see, but be interesting. But yeah, Keon Kulamatangi, I thought was man of the match. Got through all his normal work and bagged himself a double as well. So,
did you hear Wayne's comments after the game? They asked him what sacrifices Keon made over the off season to get into the shape he's currently in. He just said, "Food."
No, I didn't. Very good.
That was the whole. That was
He's
the whole
got such a
statement.
good dry sense of humour, Wayne.
And it was one of those.
You can see why the boys get up for him, mate.
Yeah.
It's just some of the funny off the cuff comments he comes up with.
It popped me. The problem was the journo was too dumb to Jerry what he just said, so he had to explain the joke. But it was good from Wayne. Yeah, I agree. Keon was fantastic. We didn't mention Bizza. I thought he tried his ass off as well, but you'd expect
He
no
did.
less.
He seems to have a few problems with his hands at the moment. I don't know what that's about because he's normally one of the safest going around. But probably the last 2 games, I've seen him spill more balls than he probably did in half the season last year. So,
anything else from this game? We move on.
No, I had Keon 3. I gave Lindsay Smith the 2.
Okay.
If you just go back through the amount of work that bloke did in that game, and he's been doing it now, probably 3 weeks in a row. He's making 40-plus tackles and all the hit-ups and offloads and all the rest of it that he throws in there. And then I had Gray or Humphreys. I'd probably lean Gray's way.
Give it. Honorary mention Cody Walker. I thought he had a good game. Jai Gray 2, Lindsay Smith 1 for me. I think that's fair. Ollie?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, happy to go with Daggy's version. Give it to the winner.
30-12, the Titans over the Chooks we now have the Roosters Vortex on a Friday night, 6 p.m. We have these games where nothing happens for ages except Victor Radley getting knocked out. You watch the Roosters play, they miss a bunch of tackles, both teams drop a few balls. It's like 12-all with 10 minutes to go, and you're just like, what are we going to talk about from this game? But the Titans kicked away and matched up pretty well. Desi was pretty critical of the fact going into round 1 there'd been, and he was right, 17 games of football before the Titans got in the field, with 2 weeks before trials as well. So they look pretty sharp, the Titans. Ollie, you must be pretty happy the way they're heading.
I am, but the first half, I think, for both teams was pretty concerning. I know the Titans ran away with it in the end, and maybe I'm being overly critical here, but I was watching the game with our mate and Rooster supporter, Steve Chester, and it seemed like we were taking turns just absolutely abusing our teams because it was just not one of the greatest rugby league games of all time, at least in that first half. But the Titans, in the end, in what was a close game for the majority of it, ended up kicking away with it in the end and winning. And in the past, you definitely can't say that too often about the Titans. A Titans team of last year, maybe the year before, probably loses that game in the end, even in a close one. But for them to kick away the way they did towards the end of the game was really impressive. And I think hopefully shows positive signs for the future.
Barn, what do you make of this?
I thought both teams seemed a bit overexcited to begin the game, to be honest. They were pushing passes and really trying to go out of their way to be dominant in the middle of the field, and that led to just a whole heap of errors and penalties for crowding the ruck and laying on tackles and just stupid shit, pulling legs and trying to drag balls out of tackles.
Yeah. Never
really settled down for a good 10 or 15 minutes. I thought the Roosters were probably dominant for most of that first half. They seemed to be on the front foot on more occasions than the Titans, but every time they tried to do something with the ball, they fucked it up. Just the consistency of how many times when there looked like there was half an opportunity, somebody just threw the thing on the ground or just dropped it cold, and They shot themselves in the foot so many times in that first half, the Roosters.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It was some really ugly footy for half an hour. It was probably, 10 minutes of the 20 minutes of that first half and the first 10 minutes of the second half. But the Titans did start to look more threatening just before half time. And as soon as they come back from the break, they looked like they had it all over the Roosters. Without being able to sort of put them away, they just seemed to be able to make the half breaks. They were on top in the middle of the ruck. They were causing problems with the Roosters' defence without being able to completely break it down. But the intercept was what killed this game off for the Roosters. It was a beautiful piece of positioning because they'd been running a whole heap of traffic at Campbell all night, and I think he just had enough, and he went, fuck it, I'm going to go for the intercept rather than trying to tackle this big bastard who's trying to run on the outside shoulder, and then he takes the intercept and runs 80 metres, and that just completely shifted the momentum of this game. the Titans just went up like 2 notches. The Roosters looked a bit deflated, and then they just could not handle the pace that the Titans started playing with after that intercept.
Their best forwards just have big engines deep into the game, like Fermor, Tino. Mo plays less minutes these days, but had a couple of good stints. Brock Gray isn't a bad player, actually. I think he's, for the limited minutes we see, he's not a bad player as well. And RCG helps that rotation that they can. I think they're going to just stay deeper into the games than they did in the last couple of years, where they've just fallen off in that back 20. And I think that was a bit of the difference as well. But you're right, the momentum completely changed there.
Well, it was proven what you just said, that the last 20 minutes, the Titans were dominant, like especially through the middle of the field. They completely won the ruck. And then when they were getting the ball out to the edges, the likes of Sammy and Brian Kelly were actually putting dents in them and turning them around and really causing all sorts of problems for the Roosters.
Anything else from this game? Ollie, what are you doing with what do you make of your halves, Campbell, AJ, and is there a suggestion you'd like to see AJ at 1? Are you happy with De Groot now, given we're going to lose? You've lost Keeney for the year, or a good chunk of it?
I can't really fault it too much yet. I was a bit worried that we'd be seeing 2 sort of ball players in the halves together and no real leader, no one really providing that direction. But with the 7 on his back, Jaden Campbell has really surprised me. And the last couple of weeks, he's looked fantastic. If he can maintain that form, I don't see the Titans as a team who are going to beat your tippy top sides of the competition or anything. But against sort of the rest of the bottom 8 teams and stuff like that, if we've got a player who's sort of consistently competent at halfback, then that's going to be going a long way for the Titans this year. But it's only been a couple games so far. Can't really say anything negative about it, but I don't want to be overly positive because we haven't seen it for a long enough period yet. But I'm happy for him to keep going with that combination. I mean, at least until Kieran Foran's fit, if he gets back in the side. I mean, if they're playing like this, he might end up being a bit of a bench utility.
Yeah. Barn, your thoughts on that spine?
Yeah, AJ seems a bit more opportunistic than anything. He seems to become more involved when there's a loose ball or, there's something's being created for him. I'm yet to see him really create for his outside men rather than sort of catch and pass or maybe, pop a ball if he does get halfway through the line himself. But he's more a run-first mentality. De Groot worries me a little bit. I was a bit worried about the amount of output that he put into this game. I think he only returned for about 80-something kick return meters when you're coming off the back of the bloke that was there that was doing 200, 250 every week. I wouldn't be surprised if you see in-game De Groot and AJ sort of swapping in and out of that position at 5'8", because he did play a fair bit of ball playing. He did do a fair bit of ball distribution, De Groot. He did sort of wedge himself in between Preston Campbell and AJ a bit, which did get AJ a little bit wider. And his passing game probably seems stronger than his running game. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see them two switch in between positions at different times.
Is he the one that's supposed to be the fastest bloke in the comp, De Groot? Or am I thinking of Camperera?
I don't think so. But he seems a little slight for mine, and I think you're going to lose a little bit on kick returns where I would at times switch him around and have AJ bringing the ball back.
I forgot about Foran. I suppose once Foran's back, then it's easier to move AJ out of that 6 spot as well.
Even Sammy, maybe swap him with Sammy occasionally and let Sammy do some of that truck work back from kick returns and stuff like that. But
yeah, good idea. And then AJ can defend in the centres and on the edge instead of Sammy.
You can't knock Sammy's attack. Both those centres are fantastic in attack.
He's been very good this year. I can't fault Sammy much at all this year, to be honest.
No.
2 games we've seen him. 3 games we've seen him.
57% completion rate for the Chooks probably says what we need to take away from this game.
Yeah. It's because, as I said to Ollie before, I don't know if you overheard, but I thought they were pretty dominant for the 20-minute period in that first half, and they just kept fucking things up. So,
yeah.
What about, we talked about the Titans 7. Do we need to talk about the Roosters 7?
They need a new one.
Yes, that's probably all needs to be said, isn't it?
Well, the best part of his game when he was at his peak was his kicking game, and that's gone backwards. Like he's kicking the ball about as far as Nico these days, and
I
he
actually
used
looked
to
at
have
that.
another 20 meters on his
I don't
boot.
think, as a team, 420 kicking meters the whole game from the Roosters team.
Yeah, but they dropped half the fucking ball.
There wasn't a lot of complete. That's right. Yeah, and you don't get to the fifth. It's very hard to kick, I suppose. Good point. Touche.
I thought Tedesco tried hard. It was decent.
You know, he's working into the season quite well. This was his best game, and this is more from a super coach spectrum. Angus Crichton's just starting to come good. He had a good game. He fucking misses Sam Walker desperately, but I thought he had a very good game for him.
I'm a bit worried about Young. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Noah Katase end up on the wing
and Billy Smith back
in the centres, but because he's got some horrible defensive problems. Dom Young,
he just doesn't tackle.
You know, he can finish and he's pretty good in attack, but I just think if you put Mark out there on the wing and bring Billy back, that probably strengthens up that position more than having Dom Young there. But
fair shout.
We'll see. I thought Radley was decent. Obviously, he copped his head crack again and went off, but I thought he put in a good effort. Sia Wong did a good job, as did Docker Clay, actually. He surprised me. He did more than, I've seen out of his previous stints at different clubs, and, he's played hooker before. Thought he was good. Nefanu White is absolutely killing it the last couple of games, and he's really cemented himself down into that Jared's former position in that front row there. So he's one for your super coaches to be looking out for.
Yep.
I think he's only around 450, 500K, and he's punching out 60s and 70s week after week at the moment. So keep an eye on him in your super coach. You mentioned Angus. I thought he had he was probably their best. Him and White were their two best players on the field. Randall had a very good game, I thought, which isn't surprising because he probably plays two good games and then an average one, but I thought this one was one of his better ones. Fafita chimed in when he got out there. Tino was awesome, as he always is. Fermor is absolutely braining it this season.
He'll play Origin this year. Play for Queensland.
Apart from injury, I can't remember him ever really being bad. Like ever since he turned up, he has been a fantastic player. And unless he gets injured or knocked out, he generally has a pretty fucking good game of footy when he's out there. So
and he goes looking for work as well. And he's happy to. He runs. He leaves that central third when he'll go looking out wide. He'll find a try if he needs to. He's
got a bit of that Hudson Young, Reed Marnie shit in him too, which is the worst thing to have as a back rower. AJ had a very good game, but Jaden Campbell was a standout again, and his kicking game's getting better week on week. He was a big part of why they scored a couple of their tries. Like AJ's first try was him putting his nose through the line and getting up with a quick play the ball. And then AJ scores next to the post. And then you saw it again when they scored down on the left-hand side. It was him running into the line and then attack. Then there was a quick dart from dummy half, and then he sweeps around to the left and puts him away down the left-hand side. Like he is really turning into a very good halfback.
He might almost, the way they're heading, he might be a more valuable Supercoach asset than Nico in a few weeks. If he was $100,000 cheaper,
on average, he's a couple of points underneath at the moment, but that's kicking. So
but if he was $100,000 cheaper, he'd almost be a must-have. He's just in that ugly spot where you want him to kick goals.
He needs to be one of those because you've only got the 4 positions in the halves unless you want to use a flex. So he needs to be one of your 3 guns in that halves position.
I guess Titans, Tigers, and Warriors to me after the last 2 weeks are in this category where the way they played in the weekend, they would beat more than half the comp week in, week out if they stick to it, and that's a long way to go. But I think they're all positives. There shouldn't be too much. We talk about the baseline. I think we talked about the baseline a little bit with Titans last week. On the back of this forward pack, they should be in most games. They're not going to get bashed out of games by physical teams, and they should find enough points if their backs can defend to stay in a lot of games.
No, 100% correct. And they've got X factor there too. They can create out of nothing.
Like they have a lot of bases covered, and I think people sleep on a little bit, and I think maybe because of the first round bye, teams still are, but positive signs for Titans, and they're not a boring team, which is always a tick as well. Ollie, I guess I'll give you the final word before we get out. Anything else, Barn, for you, though? I will give you a quick say.
No, I'm done.
Ollie, I'll give you the final word on your team.
I'm still very pessimistic, but just to quickly touch on the Roosters, because everyone's been knocking him all year, I will say this about Chad Townsend. He is my favourite ever Cronulla Sharks premiership winning halfback.
Very good.
Well, kudos to him. I think that, you know what the Roosters are going to be? They're going to do what they did 2 years ago. I reckon they win they get Sam Walker back, and I think they'll win sort of 7 of the last 10 or something and not disgrace themselves.
And scrape into 8 or something.
Yeah, not so much, I don't know about 8, but I think once they get Walker back, Billy Smith back,
it'll look like a better season than they actually had.
I agree. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Campbell 3, Fermor 2, Tino 1, or you want to go somewhere else?
Tino or Angus, but if you're going to go 30 to 12 probably says Titans all the way through, doesn't it?
Yeah. You happy with those 3, Ollie?
Of course.
All right. Well done, you, mate. What do we got next? The main event, the battle for Suncorp, whatever they call it. 20 to 12 in the rain up there, and they cop some. Broncos over the Dolphins, who, I'll be honest, this scoreline flattered the Dolphins, didn't it, Barn?
I thought it flattered Brisbane.
Okay. Yeah, talk us through it.
It probably did end up flattering the Dolphins, but they really should have cashed in early. They were all over Brisbane at the start of this game. They spent the first 20 minutes punching holes in them, just pushing them on the back foot, constantly dominating field position. But they just can't. Once the ball gets past Katoa, there's sweet fuck all happening, except for Herbie taking a hit up. There's no other real options. The ball gets to Herbie and he just runs flat out at the bloke in front of him because there's no sort of shape after. Like Katoa works well with the forwards and he'll play in, play out, draw a defender, but that one pass off the shoulder, as soon as it goes past that, there's nobody else providing anything. Like this, one of Cody's worst games I think I've ever seen him play ball in hand.
His defence wasn't much better all the time.
Added sweet fuck all, and Brisbane came out of being on the back foot for 20 minutes, leading 10-0.
Yeah, that's fair. But the Dolphins have done it every week. They've managed to get there. They did against a tight.
Not like this. Their energy that they put into this game for the first 15 minutes was well above anything that they've put out so far this year.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, no, well, they should have been up 24-0 against the Tigers and couldn't do it. So, that's fair.
That's true. But Hammer's doing absolutely fucking nothing. He's not getting involved at all. He's not even on the sweep plays to try and create an extra man or anything. I don't know what the fuck he's doing. I saw him maybe 3 times, and 2 of them were kick chases where he made a tackle, and that was about it.
Yep. And last year he was looking for this stuff, or his kick returns had more intensity. There was a lot more.
You saw the first break of the game where Gilbert goes straight through after 3 or 4 minutes. Nobody was anywhere near him.
Yeah.
Nobody. The closest bloke was the winger on the far side of the field, and he came trucking back into the middle of the field, and that was it. Like, you can't score points playing footy like that.
Ollie, your takeaways from this?
Just to add on to Hammer and sort of what you guys were saying, last year it seemed that even when the Dolphins looked down and out in games, he was always involved somehow, multiple times a set. And it's
even if they got beat by 20, he would score 2 tries or something.
Yeah, it's just completely gone the other way with him. But I don't want to just bag on him because this year, the way that I would describe the Dolphins is they've just been flat. They've just, even that Newcastle game a few weeks ago where they were just taking hit-ups for the whole game for entire sets, and it just looks like they're just...
I'm going to talk about that later.
The first 15 minutes aside... And the opening to the game against the Tigers, it just seems that they get to a point in games where it genuinely seems like they're just there to get through. Like they're just waiting for the game to end.
Yeah,
seriously, they don't look like they're trying to do anything other than just get through their set, kick the ball, and then let the other team do what they want. It's just baffling to me.
It feels like
there's set 4 blokes out there that are having a crack for most of the game, and it's Katoa, and he's limited to what he can do because of the position he plays. He needs to provide for other people. Gilbert's constantly trying, but I think they need to put him in the front row and just tell him just to bash out the hit ups and make the tackles in the middle of the field. Herbie's trying as much as he can, but he only gets the ball once every, maybe once a set, probably every second set, third set. And Plath. And Plath's doing all the clean-up work. He's there for offloads. He's basically the only one that's supporting through the middle of the field. The rest of them, they just don't seem to be having a go.
No, I agree. And this was noticeable in the Tigers game. The back end of that second half, they had a heap of possession, heap of field position, but at no point was ever worried about it. It was, you just, like, the line was set. They were going to run into it, tackle them 5 times, and they were going to put up a bomb. Like, that was 80 minutes what the Dolphins did, and it was the same here.
And I don't know how it changes without the involvement of, obviously you need Nicarima, you need Jeremy Marshall-King, you need Hammer, and those blokes aren't providing anything at the moment.
And Trey Fuller's not going to be around this year, who was their other spark.
Their defence is really confused on the edges. Like, the way that Reynolds was able to toy with them at times, putting Shibasaki through holes down at edges and Ricky on the other side of the field, and it was just painful to watch. And Brisbane could have won this by heaps more, except Ben Hunt and Reece Walsh had a holiday for most of the game.
Yeah.
If those two get involved, this could have been 70.
Reece Walsh isn't a wet. He's a dry tracker, Reece Walsh. He's
100%.
We're heading into round
on
5.
Fucking ice skates.
Yeah, we're heading into round 5, and everyone's starting to write him off, and he'll get unfortunately, play the Tigers this week, but he'll get a dry track and he will explode coming up. But
and Ben Hunt was fantastic in the first round, and he's just taken a back seat. There'll be times where he comes on and starts laying on tries, but at the moment he's just sitting back watching everything happen. So
we were all very bullish on the Dolphins in our season preview, and I actually have grave concerns. Like,
yes, absolutely.
It is it's Para and Dolphins in the Spoon Bowl this year, and I can't find a third pick.
Nope.
Ollie.
All the rest of them are going to be, like we said in the preview, everyone's going to beat everyone at different points during the year by the looks of it. So.
This round could, mate, if this round's an indication for this year, we're in for a cracker. Like, we are genuinely in for a cracker. We could get to round 8 and Penrith have 2 wins, and then it's like game on for everyone.
Yep. 100%.
What do you make of Brisbane, Ol?
No, they've got all the pieces. They're yet to really put it all together.
Downs hats, you're right there.
I get the feeling in that game, in particular against the Dolphins, part of it was sort of conservation, not only because the team Malverson was doing nothing, but also the wet weather. So I don't know if that sort of played into it, because it definitely seemed like the Broncos weren't going full gear, and it at least seemed to me like that was sort of on purpose, that they were just sort of hanging back. They didn't want any unnecessary injuries or anything playing in wet weather. I've liked what I've seen from them this year. They don't quite still seem like that 2023 Broncos yet, but they seem much improved from last season. There's still little bits that are going to be worked out. Like we touched on Reece Walsh. He was a massive part of 2023. But a bloke that's not even been mentioned yet, who I think's been their best player, one of the best players in the comp so far this year, Payne Haas, who I think has been an absolute leader and has been instrumental in pretty much every minute that he's on the field of every Broncos game this year.
No doubt, yeah. Well, we've mentioned him enough, but I assume he'll probably end up in the points easily. It'll be one of those ones we don't really
4
mention.
rounds in, mate. We're sick of talking to the bloke.
Yeah, like it's just this
just
year
about every time he touches the ball.
We're going to review 25 rounds this year, and we probably won't mention him 20 of them, but he'll get 3 points at the end of it.
Yeah. Exactly. No, it's about every time he touches the ball, he at least bends the line. He gets his nose through and drags a couple of people with him. He's looking for the offload this year, which he hasn't done previously. And
41
he's been
tackles.
Devastating. 2 of those tries from the Dolphins, if the coach didn't stand there and scream at him for 10 minutes about what happened with the Corey Pakes try and the Katoni Staggs try. He's not worth his salt, because they were horrible defensive lapses. Like Pakes' ones was a little bit tighter than Staggs' one, but Staggs just picked the ball up, ran 15 metres sideways and ran into a fucking massive hole and scored in the corner.
If that had happened in my son's under-9s game, they would have got a shellacking. Genuinely.
He dead set just ran around 3 guys who sort of stood there and watched him, and then there was a hole next to the centre, and he just scored. Like, what's going on? He was pretty good in his return, actually, considering, he's had a pretty long layoff. He brought a fair bit of energy, and that, he's whacking blokes in defence, which he seems to love to do, which is, it's probably stopped them running down that side as much as they could have. You're right about 3 points for Haas, because that's what I've got. But
shock me,
because he was in everything that came good. That 40-20 call was abominable.
Yeah.
Like his foot well and truly on the line and slaps it back in, and they make 20 metres, and I think they scored off the next set as well.
It was a 12-point. Well, 12. It was a turnaround. They scored next the set after. Yeah. They got down upfield, got a scrum, and scored. Because I did
60 metres downfield.
I did a package for news.com.au about that. So, on that whole thing, it was a momentum shift, if ever.
Massive one. Yeah, because it was almost obviously a 40-20, and then you slap it back in. It should have been Dolphins' ball. And, but mentioned pretty much everything else. I thought Herbie and Katoa worked their ass off with little support. Plath and Saifidi were good.
Saifidi's been good up there.
Better games.
Yeah.
He's especially ball in hand. He's actually making an impact, barreling into the defence.
Yep.
But that was about as far as the mentions went for those guys. Carrigan and Ricky were very good, as was Reynolds. Shibasaki and Haas were the 2 best players on the field. Like, where Shibasaki's come from and the way he's just bouncing players off. Like, they come in to tackle him, he just bounces off and runs over them, and doesn't seem to slow down when they make contact with him either. He seems to come out of the hole faster than when he went into it. So he's been enormous this year for them. And Payne Haas, as I said, looking for the offload, just damaging runs. If he doesn't get through the line, he's dragging 3 blokes 5 or 10 metres with him, gets a quick play the ball on the back of it, and they just take full advantage after he's gone through the line. And Carrigan's fucking if Haas isn't in the team, you're probably saying all this stuff about Carrigan. But
hey, if you're Queen,
what about a couple of the shots in this game too? Carrigan absolutely ironed someone out, and so did Palias.
Because Carrigan does the 80-minute job. It was probably 10 to go, and he buried 2 people in quick succession when Haas had gone off, and just killed any chance of momentum. If you're Queensland selector on that, who do you pick at prop? Who do you pick at lock? Or does Carrigan go back to the middle? Does Tino play lock for Queensland and Carrigan play in the middle? Does Tom Gilbert play lock? I just thought of that, but you could pick Pat Carrigan at second row, and he'd still be the best second rower in the game. But
I was thinking it'd be between Tino and Carrigan. I think
they probably asked the question, who wants to play where?
And I'm sure either would be happy. I just sort of think I would probably more have Carrigan at lock, the front row, just in that origin setup. I think all playing options, I think Carrigan probably benefits a bit more in that origin scenario. But you realistically, we're talking about 2 great players who could excel in both. So,
oh yeah, there's no wrong answer. It was just a question. Bo Firma was floating about in the back row. Who's our other obvious back rowers? Kafusi's days are done. I'm trying to think who they are. Anyway, they'll come to me.
Maybe Ricky.
I'm sure we're missing someone.
No, there's 2. There'll be obvious ones.
Yeah. I'd probably go Tino at 13. I think he's probably just got a bit more mobility in him these days than what Carrigan does. And they're all going to play pretty much straight up and down through the middle anyway, because I think that's probably their best shot, is to try and fire back through the middle and have them all play as front rowers. But we'll see what they end up doing.
Yeah. Let me think.
Because I don't think they really need that extra ball player in that side.
Oh, and they got Lindsay Collins, Ruben Cotter as well.
Munster and DCE.
Yeah.
I don't really. I think the forwards probably get in the way more than anything. if they start to try and ball play.
Yeah. Tom Gilbert and around there doing some work. Anyway, that's not our problem. We will 3 points Payne Haas.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Broncos top 4. Yep, they'll keep motoring along. They've got a cozy draw too now. For a long time, as long as no one gets hurt in Origin, I think they're going to be sweet for the top 4. 3 points Haas, 2 points Shibasaki, 1 point Carrigan.
I had Reynolds or Farnworth, but
Oh yeah, heard he was good. What do you think?
Give it to Herbie.
All right, why not?
Plus 200 metres, I think.
Do you blokes want to refresh? We're nearly an hour in, or keep going on?
Do another one.
All right, 14-8. The Storm went down in the wet at Jubilee to the Dragons, who got their first win of the year, and probably bemoaning the fact they should have nearly been undefeated this year, to be honest. But they got one here over the Storm, which is good for them. Barn, what do you think?
I agree with you there. They probably should be undefeated coming into this one, but yeah, really sloppy conditions led to some sloppy footy early. Dragons, you have to give it to them. They just continually turned up in this. Like they were getting pushed and beaten at different times. Katoa was having a fair bit of fun on that edge at different times during this game. Munster had some really nice touches early, and Melbourne were probably pretty well in front at the start of this game, but they bombed probably 2 or 3 tries in the first 15, 20 minutes of this game. They had good field position and were in position to score tries, but just managed to fuck it up basically. Gutho's ball to Holmes was fantastic. It was good to see Holmes back on that trajectory of really hitting that line hard, and they used him up a fair bit in this game, which was good to see. And his defence was back to being a lot better than what it has been for the last 12 months or so, because he was a bit average at the Cowboys and then coming in to start this year, but his defence was right back up there, and that's good signs for Holmes going forward. And that connection with Gutherson, he's got it on the other side as well with Sewer and the other centre out on that edge. It's just skipping my mind at the moment, but
Surely
he's playing both sides of the field, and he's in that passing
my opening
game's
line in my notes was
massive.
Clint Gutherson is good at football.
Has been for a little while.
Am I wrong?
No, you're not. And the biggest thing they get out of him probably is the way that he sets up the defence as well. Like it's been known for however long at Parramatta, they used to get caught on that outside edge. But at the end of the day, your fullback can't be setting up your wingers. But he sets up all the stuff in front of him and the way this, what the shape the defence is going to take. And the Dragons' defence, while it was decent at times last year, it's improved, and that's directly coming from Gutherson, I think.
100%. Their structures are a lot better, and they just hang tough. They just that's all I can say. They just hung tough in this game. Didn't miss tackles. Didn't do a lot wrong. It wasn't a pretty game, but they stuck in long enough to get a barge over try, and they did shut down the Storm. Ollie, what do you make? What are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's my new segment called Ollie's Corner. I'm in the corner charging my phone.
Oh, okay. I thought you were having a piss or something.
Ollie's Corner.
Yeah, no hands. All right, what did you make of this?
So the way I would describe it in general is the Dragons played the way any... I don't want to be rude and call them a lower table team, but a team that's sort of well off a Melbourne Storm, just hanging in there. They just seemed to hang in that game. I think they were helped out a bit by the weather, and I think Melbourne made a couple of costly mistakes that they wouldn't make on a dry track, but obviously you can't put the whole game down to that. I think the Dragons just a really good game of hanging in there, dragging it down, keeping the game close, not trying to do anything stupid. That's the experience of Gutherson that comes in. I think it was pivotal in this game with the Dragons, that experience instead of big game player sort of kept them in it. And I think they just sort of grinded Melbourne down a bit, and again didn't do too much stupid, because you see sides who face a team like a Melbourne or a Penrith in the past, they think that they've got to get up, score as many points as they can, throw the ball around. But the Dragons didn't really do that. I think they just sort of held in there, stuck to their guns. Gutho led the way, and they just, the way I would say is they sort of grind Melbourne down and just make sure that this game will get out of hand for them, and in the end,
Is there a concern? And they were missing their halfback, so then obviously it's not the end of the world for Melbourne. But just thinking about it, is there a concern that there's not really a plan B for Melbourne? Like when everything didn't quite go right in the wet, and there was no Hughes, like Munster. Pappy had a tremendous game again. Pappy has been great every week, but Munster's still played the Cam Munster game. Wishart just was a battering ram. There didn't feel like there was a wet weather contingency to this game, or am I overthinking that, Barn?
Grant's attacks dropped off massively.
Yeah, like
I don't know what that's all about, but his defense is still fantastic, and he puts in every week. But his attacking game has gone out the window. I don't know what it is. He used to bring forwards onto the ball, and they'd be scoring crash over tries all over the place. He'd be chipping in for tries himself, and then it's just the attacking part of his game just seems to have disappeared in the back half of last year and to start this year. And that used to be their plan B. Used to be go back into the middle, control the ruck, let Harry take over for 20 minutes and tell us what we're doing, and it doesn't seem to be happening.
No, I agree with that. And I don't know how he's been. I'm just looking at 62 run meters even. Like he was such a front foot hooker for so long, and the forward pack's as big as it's ever been, so there shouldn't really be too many excuses. But
they're still getting good, good purchase out of both their back rowers in Bloor and Katoa, and Kamakamika has a really good game here and there. Like they've still got the pieces for him to use.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't quite know what to make of Melbourne off the back of this.
Different game. If Melbourne hang on to two of those balls, they bombed 3 tries in the first 10 or 15 minutes of this game.
Yeah.
If they hang on to 2 of those, it's a completely different game. The Dragons do probably start to panic and start to chase the footy. And then Melbourne probably just go through the motions and grind out a pretty good win. But, they were probably playing a bit too expansive early because they got a bit excited because there was a bit of space out on the edges early, and but they couldn't execute. So
Dragons, look, they're going to hang tight. This is going to be the Dragons' MO. They're going to play these sort of games every week and try and drag teams down to their level, I guess. The bloke I want to wrap is Jacob Little. I think he's had a great start of the year. And to be honest, if he was playing Damien Cook's minutes, I think they probably win those games they didn't.
Quite possibly, yeah.
And he's just physical. He gets in and has a crack. I don't know. He could still play small forward, I think, because his defence is good. But I think he's been almost their most outstanding player after Gutho here.
Lifts another level when he comes on for that interchange role. Like the ruck speeds up so much more when the first 10 minutes he comes on. Sua's another one that deserves a mention. He was fantastic again, and generally one of St George's better players week in and week out.
Anything else from this game, Molly?
I guess sort of wrap up. Okay. There are concerns around Melbourne, but I don't think I would be too worried about just yet. I don't think there are any big enough concerns for me that it's going to be a major issue.
Yeah, no, I'm not concerned about them. It's interesting that the slog didn't necessarily suit them. But Barn, yeah,
Pappy and Munster were still pretty good, realistically. Couchman was good defensively. Didn't really had a bit of his game time taken off him. But did a whole heap of work defensively. Ilias probably had one of his better games for a long time. Just controlled kicking and got him into positions pretty well. You mentioned Little, Sua, and Holmes. I thought they all had a good impact, but Gutho's easily the biggest threat on the field.
The
Dragons.
He's top 3 buys of the year now. He's into old mate territory, which we knew. Like we knew. How do we know things and blokes that run football clubs don't? Hey, if blokes that own football clubs wanted employees to run football clubs, shout out.
They're petrified of age, man. As soon as blokes get over that 32, get up into the 30s, they're just petrified. And it doesn't seem to affect, playmakers and ball players as much. Gutho was having a few injuries.
Yeah, he's had bad
that
knees
happens
and that
to
sort of
everyone. I'd astounded Parramatta let him go. I thought he would have been Parramatta forever. You know what I mean? Like, he had his little stint at Manly to begin with, but I thought they would have just locked him up, thrown away the key, and just said, "You're here until you're done."
Especially as a club captain. And we're not far off getting to Parramatta actually, so we might put a pin in that and come back to it.
Yep.
But look, Dragons are the new Canberra. I think you're gonna have to beat them every week. And that sounds really stupid out loud, but they're going to be the gatekeepers, I think.
Very close to it. There's going to be a few of them this year, I think.
That is true. Who is actually above that?
There's going to be 4 or 5 of them fighting out for 7th and 8th.
Yeah, it's super interesting. 3 to Gutho. Where else are we going?
Yep. I had Sewer for 2.
Yep.
And then I had either Little or Katoa for the 1.
Give it to Little. Get him on the board. And I'll let everyone have a break and Ollie go and do whatever the hell he's doing there. And we'll be back very shortly. Stay tuned. Ollie's looks like he's about to do a cameo or something, but there he is. 30 to 20 Cowboys over the Raiders. Up at a very hot Country Bank Stadium. I believe the Raiders went and sat in the freezer at halftime and all sorts of things, but it was a bit of a struggle up there. Barn, what did you make of this one?
An 87% humidity, mate, and every player on the field felt every bit of it. I think every single one of them had their ass hanging out at one point in the game. Like, you could tell it was oppressive. Like, they were sweating before the ball was kicked off.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous. But
they're just not
really good
fun
intensity
conditions
from both teams. They both started with aggression and they're getting on the front foot and trying to bash the other side. Canberra couldn't match it with the pace out wide, though. For mine, it was a big part of, like, the Cowboys were able to shift early. Purdue looked threatening to start this game. His footwork on I think it was Sebastian Chris. He left him just standing still a few times and just brushed past him and kept running, which is unusual because Chris has had a really good start to the year. But they played some dumb footy too, Canberra, at times when they got themselves into good position and just couldn't. They made errors and all the rest of it. But the turning point was Clifford. Clifford just went nuts for 10 minutes.
Well, it did coincide with the fact that KO Weeks doesn't like catching, anything at the moment. It struggled to catch. I won't say any of those jokes.
I don't know what they do here because they're going to either have to put Savage or Chris back there or find somebody else to go back there because that's 3 weeks in a row where they've just bombed the shit out of the fullback and he's dropped every other ball.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand how his error stats are as low as they fucking are on NRL.com or Foxtel because...
Well, last week, Bullymore scored 2 in 2 minutes because he couldn't catch. This week, Clifford scored 2 in 2 minutes because he couldn't catch. Ollie just left because he's that disgusted in his effort. But I'm sure I'll pop back in at some point. But, yeah, there has to be...
the one where Clifford jumped over the top of him, there's probably not a lot he could do. It was a really well-positioned kick, and he was sort of standing heels on the line and just trying to get underneath it and got out-jumped. But there was that many times where the ball just hits him. It just seems to hit him on the chest and roll down his arms, and it's a knock-on.
Yeah. It's sorry for that background sound. Just liaising with our other correspondent. But there's other times he's been disgusting out of position. Other players as well. Like he's
not getting himself involved. Like the biggest part of his game was his pace and acceleration, getting in on the back of offloads or a short ball through the middle of the ruck, and he's not getting involved in there either. Which is, if you're dropping every other ball that gets kicked at you, you need to do something somewhere. So I can see him find himself out of this team pretty quickly.
Well, Ricky was, and he's, as I said last week,
Albert's just done a...
Yeah, so now Albert, Tamale's job security is quite good for all those that own him, which is good because he's churning out 60s and 70s every week.
What was that?
Tamale's job security is pretty good now.
Tamale, 100%.
Because he's churning out good numbers. But I
wonder if he can play fullback.
I might have to. But yeah, Savage didn't cover himself in glory when he was there. Chris is okay, but he's not as quick as the other, three we just mentioned. So I don't know. We defended his plays to the hilt last week, and he basically said he's not happy with them this week. So I imagine it's a big week for KO.
You had the 2 tries in that 10-minute period, and then the Cowboys come out and scored just straight again after half time, and Canberra just panicked. They lost the plot. They didn't know what was going on. They had Hess in the bin for 10 minutes as well, and then they give away a fucking rolled ball penalty with a bloke in the bin, and then they were, I think it was around halfway somewhere, and it was second tackle, and then they just give the ball back because someone didn't want to get their foot on the anywhere near the ball. Like you just got to pretend you're playing it, and it's fine. But I know the roll ball penalties are fucking iffy one these days, and they penalise it half the time, and they don't the other half. But with the guy off the field and on the roll,
well, that's right. In that, because to be honest, they until that moment, I thought they were going to win the game. I thought they had the momentum. I thought they were away, and then that was the end of it. After that,
Fogarty's kicking game was good again. Big part of the Raiders getting them around the field, led to a couple of scoring opportunities, repeat sets. You already mentioned Weeks. I thought he's definitely a find on that edge for him. The big back rower, runs a good line, very good in defence as well. So good on both sides of the ball. So it'd be interesting.
I think Smithies is back this week, who will shore up that middle a bit more as well.
Back into the middle, yeah. You mentioned Tamale, Fogarty, they were all very good. Tarpanay was their best player by a mile. He came out with the energy big time early in the game. And it seemed that Papali'i dropped off a little bit in this one.
He did. And the other one I was going to mention is Corey Horsburgh. So he's on the nose last year. He's had the big start to this year, but he's been sin bin. He nearly should have been sin bin here, but sin bin last week.
Should have been sin bin.
I can see the the bow breaking again with Ricky. I can see him maybe on the outer. At least that's coming, but he's not short of effort. He might be the biggest rocks and diamonds player in the game.
I still don't even think he was that bad, to be honest. Mariota had a good stint again. Someone who's looking to force his way into this team. Bateman, I thought, had a pretty decent game. He got through a lot of work.
Yeah, he did.
Didn't do anything, outstanding, but got through a lot of work, as did Cotter and Robson. Didn't look really good at times, but then sort of went missing at different times during the game as well.
Interesting. I think he got the Dally M points, and I
don't know how that happens.
Because people don't watch games.
Brandy apparently was one of the judges.
Actually, I heard
this morning
that
on SEN radio. He said that I was one of those judges that gave him 3 points. I'm like, okay, mate. I normally stick pretty solid with Brandy. He's one of the better ones that
he's the better one.
Disagreed with him
in that Foxtel stable.
Drinkwater's best game of the year. Got involved a lot more. A couple of nice shifts of the ball to get it out to the edge. But I thought Clifford was easily the difference in this game. I don't know how you overlook what Clifford did compared to...
And it set up the game really well. It's very interesting because it's now a running spine again. Like all 4 of those players are running players. Robson, Clifford did, and Drinkwater. But
Clifford has a pretty good kicking game.
There wasn't. I was just looking at the stats on that actually before you mentioned it, but it wasn't a big one. But they didn't need to be.
No, but positioning. Like one of the most important things in the game is being able to position that kick that comes down within 2 meters of the goal line and doesn't go over the. They can't get the foot back and make it a repeat set, and it just lands on that person's head that you want it to land on. And he did a fair bit of that in this game.
And Weeks may have well been better off trying to catch it with his head, to be honest, but. That was the way it ended up. I was happy for him because he's had a bit of a road back, and I think it definitely made a difference this Cowboys team. And he made a lot of those blokes around him look better, which I guess is half the battle when you're a first receiver. You mentioned Bateman. Cotter was good as usual, without a mountain of. I'm just looking at stats without a mountain of meters. You mentioned Purdue, so look. they won.
It's a tough one.
That
Nobody really
conditions in their
sort of blew the
favours.
other team
I was
out
going to
of the
say,
water.
that conditions in their favours. They beat Canberra, and it's all like, okay, like we all move on and we'll do it again next week. Really.
Yeah, well, and in the current state of things, if they want to go anywhere after this win, they need to challenge Penrith next week. So
Yeah.
this week coming.
Yeah. Who are you giving points to here?
Clifford, Drinkwater, and Tapane were my three.
Yep, no, sounds good to me. Let's go with that. And I'm going to have another quick break and see if I can find this other bloke that just disappeared. And then we get to this main event, Barn, 20-6, the Bulldogs over the Sharks, who had to get up to what I thought was a nearly a finals level performance from the Bulldogs. And I don't, sadly, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, it felt a bit like the Sharks couldn't hack it, like they've not hacked it for the last couple of years. But is that a bit harsh?
The energy was there, and the attitude was right for most of the game. But yeah, the simple mistakes and just stupid. I'll get to that in a minute anyway. I want to give the Dogs their kudos
Yeah,
before
let's start with the Dogs because
I have a
I thought they were
rant.
tremendous.
But, like the start of the game is a couple of minutes in, and they keep the Dogs to 25 meters off their own line, right? And then they they return with a great bomb. They get a repeat set. Then there's a dropout that goes dead. It goes over the fucking sideline. They get a 10-meter play the ball. They play the fucking ball, and there's no fucking dummy half there. Curran just walks over, picks up the ball, and runs 15 meters downfield, and the Sharks are all standing around going, "What the fuck just happened?"
Yeah.
Like, one job, motherfucker. Get in there and make sure you're there to fucking pick up the ball. Like, it could have been 6-0, and within a couple of minutes to start the game, and then the Dogs come down. Oh, mate, their attitude was brilliant. They came off the line defensively and were bashing guys left, right, and center. Sharks did the same back to them, and Sharks got caught in the trap, I think, because they were winning in the middle of the field. They were making more meters. They were smacking blokes in defense, but then old sexy Sexton would go and kick a 70-meter spiral. They'd be kick the ball on his own 30-meter line, and then Kennedy would pick it up on the try line, jiggy jog fucking 15 meters downfield, and you're starting your set 15 meters from your own try line after pinning them in their own fucking 30. You did it time and time again all night. It's like getting a repeat set every second set. Like, you're kicking the thing 70 meters, and then you return and like you keep them in their own 30, and then you return the ball off your own try line. And it happened so many fucking times. His kicking game was superb.
717 meters. Just looking at this, and
throw Burton back in there, and he starts putting the same shit up with the bombs and the big long 60, 70-meter kicks. Like, you can pin them down and make them only make 20 meters, but you're still bringing the thing off your own try line.
Yeah.
And it happened that many times.
It is, because we said last week about how important a gun front row is to your hopes, but when you got two blokes with 80-meter boots, it offsets it.
And a fullback that really didn't seem interested in the collision. So he wasn't flying back off, picking the ball up and flying, tearing back into the defense. He's just sort of floating around, hoping someone else would take the hit up for him. And then you're starting on your own 20 or 30-meter line when you should really be starting at halfway because you pinned them down there for so long.
On top of the kicking, their kick chase line was tremendous.
Brilliant.
They
led by Crichton most of the night.
Every time they nailed them. And I've supported teams that can have good kicking games but no kick chase, and this was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, Crichton and Reed down there ready to belt blokes and making very good defensive plays on the return of the ball. Hayward had a pretty good game. That lovely short pass early for Preston with the great line, and they start 4-0. Brayley put a hit on Saluka Fafita and the ball come loose. They get an error, but then they get down there and they do nothing with the ball. And then Sexton boots it down the other end of the field again. Like, there was 2 HIAs in the space of about 10 minutes for the Sharks, which really did rattle what they were doing with their interchange and sort of put them on the back foot for 10 minutes. But the intensity from the Bulldogs was ridiculous. They had a try disallowed, which they probably should have been given.
Yeah.
Which is another one there. And then 5 minutes into the second half, Crichton just stands two blokes up on his own and goes and scores. And the Sharks are chasing the footy. Like after 60 minutes and you're behind by 14 points, wouldn't you think the coach would send a message down? How about we don't do 4 fucking one-out hit-ups, an inside ball for a second rower, and then kick a fucking bomb to Ronaldo, who's only going to fucking drop the thing again? The bloke dropped every single fucking kick that went over there. Like, don't you go, okay, he's having a bad night. Maybe we should kick to the other side, or we'll put in an early kick or a chip or a grubber or do something fucking different. Like, these two halves don't seem to be able to think for themselves.
I was going to say,
they just do what they're fucking told, and that's it.
We're now, 3 years into Nico? 3 years ago, Nico won Dally M. 2 years ago. Yeah. The third year of Nico and Trindle. So who's the leader of this Sharks team? When things aren't going right, Nathan Cleary gets up, or Isaiah gets up Penrith, Mitch Moses gets up Parramatta.
It's McGuinness.
Well, Adam Reynolds blows up at whoever's fucked up for Brisbane, etc., etc. Neither of those halves seem to, like, if Nico does something and they do the Fox shot on him afterwards, he sort of just looks a bit oblivious to it all, and
flicks his hair back and stares off into space.
Yeah, which is fun.
And Trindle gets the shits and puts his head down and starts kicking stones.
And a great footballer, but who's leading this? Who's going to lead this team to win a comp if that's where we're heading?
It's McGuinness, and it has to be Fanua Blake, and it has to be one of those halves. But at the moment, it's McGuinness. He's the only bloke that rips into blokes, fucking tells them what they need to be doing, goes out and leads by example, makes 60 tackles and misses 2.
Yeah.
In 80 minutes, he's making a tackle every minute and 20 seconds. And he was off the field for about 10 minutes, I think, as well. So, he's the one that does that kind of shit.
When you're in the bunker, you're in the trenches doing the forward work, sometimes you need someone else to have everyone else in the right spot.
Yeah, and that's the fullback's job.
Who had a good start the year, but obviously today, this game wasn't. Another half soon to be doing that.
But he's a runner, and he doesn't position his defence. He just sort of stands back and tries to get into the right position when there's a kick coming, or whatever side the play's going to. You don't see him screaming at defenders.
That's what has been missing for Penrith as well, if Dylan Edwards being out. I suspect he has a big part to play in why their edges haven't been quite right. But back to this game, it feels like they're missing a rudder.
You can't, the thing is, if they play with this kind of intensity and do the 4 hit-ups and maybe a drop-off of a back rower and a kick to the corners, they're going to win half of those games. And they get pats on the backs because they win half of those games. So that's their default. But when you're playing a good team...
They do enough that Fitzgibbons is never going to get sacked. They're probably fifth every year. Great. But they're not going to win a comp playing like this.
And you do that against a good team, you get rolled. You get beaten by 13 plus, which is what happened here. And the Dogs didn't do anything super special. Don't get me wrong, Reed should have been fucking given 10 minutes at least once during the game, which could have made some part of a difference.
We may as well touch on that because that's Shitami's comment afterwards about, rugby league's a tough sport. It's easy for the 5'4" bloke to say that when no one's allowed to throw a punch anymore. Imagine you've done that 15 years ago and then he had to pack a scrum with Steve Roach in the next set. Do you reckon he would have been walking off with all his teeth intact?
Of course not. And that's fine, mate. If the bloke's laying on the ground, put your shoulder into his ribs. Hit him in the hip. Fucking grab him on the nuts. I don't give a fuck. But don't slide it along the ground and put your shoulder into his head.
Yes.
You intentionally attacked the head of a downed player. And fucking that was the big one. And then there was the forearm in the back of the head for Talakai, which that was incidental. That was just part of making a tackle. But that could have also been 10 minutes in the bin. And this week it probably will be. But the Sharks have got no fucking reason to question anybody else apart from themselves. They went...
I agree with that.
You never saw any different angles, any different shape. And I know it's early in the season and you're going through the motions trying to play the same style of footy that's got you to where you were over the last few years. But when you're 14 points behind with 20 minutes to go, surely there's a short kick or there's fucking something.
Yeah.
Like Nico's show and go is gone. There's fucking nothing left of it. Like nobody buys his dummy and they just fucking tackle him. Like
But
he
his dummy
doesn't
half is in slow
look like.
motion most of the time as
That's
well.
right. It doesn't look like he's going to break the line. His biggest weapon at the moment is his short ball with one of his back rowers running a good line for him,
Yeah.
and
Which looks fantastic.
occasionally he can throw a decent cutout to a winger.
Yeah, when Nico cuts back
But
off him, it looks tremendous. But
yeah, that's right. And then
the
he's
other
got occasionally got a good cutout if there's space out wide to hit a winger on the chest. But there's not a lot else going on there. And Trindle's the kicker. That's basically his job. And he didn't get that right in this game either. And it doesn't help when your best catcher drops everything that's kicked at him. Like, I just don't understand why they didn't give Ramian or Nikora or Stone Street a chance on the other side of the field. Like,
yeah,
the bloke's dropped everything that's been kicked at him, or he tried to knock it back and knocked it on. Like, kick it to the other side of the fucking field once,
yeah,
maybe twice. Like,
yeah.
their effort was decent. It'll be enough to win enough games that, yeah, as you said, nobody gets sacked and all the rest of it. But there was some like brilliant performances from the Dogs. I thought Max King had a massive game. He was brilliant for them through the middle of the field, and just caused all sorts of problems for them. Curran, Salmon, Man, all just doing different stuff in the middle of the field. The stuff that the
Jacob
Sharks
Preston
weren't
throws
doing.
digs in the line, throws a fucking half a dummy, pops the best ball you've seen all night.
Step off the right, turn the
Oh,
shoulder, and promote the ball for somebody else who's
yeah.
coming, like with the
Sherry
support player coming through.
Oh.
But you didn't see the support players coming through for the Sharks.
No.
Whereas with the Dogs, there's everything they do. Like I've mentioned up to this point, the way they defend, that there's always three jerseys coming in to defend. They do the same thing in attack. There's always another option. You go into the line, there's one or two blokes following you into the line, and they're aiming at holes, or they're even just there to take an offload and gain another couple of meters, and then you continue playing. And that's what a team does. And the Sharks were playing. They weren't playing like a team, and the Dogs did, and they absolutely ran over the top of them, and probably should have won by more. Yeah, as I said, footwork, small men, Curran, Salmon, Man in the middle of the field did a really good job. The halves held their own. Zeri had a great game.
Yeah, he did.
Bronson Cherry had a massive game in this one, and Preston was brilliant. Like everything he touched turned to gold. He was just pushing guys off. Like, he's not the biggest forward in the world, but he looked like the biggest forward in the world in this game.
That's funny. He's a weird, because we talked about the Queensland back row. He doesn't feel like an Origin back row, but fuck me, he's a good player. He's a good player. Like, he doesn't feel like he has the size to be an Angus Crichton or something like that.
He
But
doesn't miss tackles. He pushes guys off. He buries into the line. He's always the first there on kick chases or a loose ball that's on the ground. And I thought he was the best on ground easily.
Yeah, I agree. This is. We'll get that out of the way quickly. So, Preston 3, Max King 2, you thinking? Or and
exactly.
Sexton 1, or you going to go somewhere else?
I had McGuinness or Sexton for one. But
give it a sexy. Why not? He's had a tremendous year,
tackles, but yeah,
it's been good to see. This is half full of shit, but it's been good to see them come out and basically say this is our halfback now.
And even his short ball's going really well.
Yeah,
the way he brings people onto the ball.
Now the question I was going to ask you is: this is high intensity, high level football. Is it sustainable for 26 rounds?
No.
But is Serrato going to try?
Even Penrith haven't been able to do it. They always drop a few here and there.
Oh,
yeah.
But do you reckon Serrato has his head around? And it's very interesting. See, well, another one out of the Penrith system, Serrato, Andrew Webster will get to soon. Similar.
The fact that their forwards are a bit on the smaller side probably lends to it being able to be done for a little bit longer.
And they're pretty Origin proof as well, so they shouldn't.
They are one of the fittest teams running around, and attitude and desire. There'll be a lull for Origin, a few weeks,
and that'll be it. Oh, Reed might be in the Queensland.
They're firming for top 4 every week. Like
they might be minor premiers.
Yeah, right.
I know it's a dumb thing to say when they're 4 from 4 because the slip up will come somewhere. But that's what I was just trying to think about. How sustainable is this effort every week? Or is it like they played the Sharks, but then they can turn it they can ease down a little bit when they come across the Dolphins and stuff?
The issue is like there was that many times, like there was every third or fourth set, the Sharks were keeping them to 20 or 30 meters made.
Mm.
and they got off the back of it with their kicking game. And the fact that Burton comes back and you've got two options that can kick the ball that long.
How many times did we say that last year?
That's a massive get out of jail free card.
Yeah. Last
GCE year, did it for Manly many times last year.
Yeah, but Burton did a lot for this team last year.
And if you got another option to do it with Sexton, you can get away with having that smaller pack.
And Reed's not worse for 40-20 either.
Yeah. Throws in a 40-20 every now and then.
The fullback's going right for him too, actually.
Like Sharks' worst game of the year. They really need to start being a bit more inventive with the ball, but the Dogs were just aggressive, attacking, and they're really, really good.
They're playing semi-final quality football very early in the season.
Well, the first probably 45, 50 minutes of this game was until the Sharks dropped off and the Dogs didn't.
Not panic. So you're not panic stations, but you're not.
No, absolutely not. There just needs to be some bit more thought thrown into the shapes that you're throwing your attack at.
Or even a bit more creativity. 26-12, Sunday kicked off with the Seagulls over the Eels, who were competitive, I suppose. You'd say for a bit, but it was a bit of a nothing happening game, Barn. What do you take away from this one?
They weren't really competitive at all, to be honest. Poor old Turbo amputated at the hips.
We might as well start with him. The poor, feel sorry for him. You can have those discussions about whether there's return on investment with him and this, that, and the other. MCL 4 weeks. But the fact he was left on the field for 20 minutes when the game was still in the balance, and at no point a single word went out to Parramatta to say, hey, why don't we grub it behind the line or chip over the top or try and make him do something other than what happened?
Yeah, short bombs and just line him up and belt him.
Anything. There was no changing. Dylan, 3 or 4 times back in that 20 minutes when they had no fullback, Dylan Brown was tackled on the line, 5 meters out. How as a coach wasn't something noticed and said, Turbo can't walk. How about we just put in a midfield bomb or something, anything?
Well, it looks like he's written the year off already, and half the team looks like they've written the year off already as well, to be honest.
And yes, he gets a free pass because he's first year, but even in the pre-game interview, they interviewed Rolls and he goes, we just need to get back to doing what we do best. And I thought, what the fuck do you do best? You haven't won a game.
Done nothing best since you've been here.
Yeah. I don't know how Parramatta are going to be any better in the next however long. I was baffled by that, but like I said, because I did a whole thing on Turbo at work.
Well, they've got 3 forwards playing reserve grade that should be in this first grade team.
100%.
And they're obviously off with the coach, and that would make this team stronger. But unless they're going to go out of their way to play a completely different style of footy and just play full on attack, and go with Lomax and a running game out of Dylan Brown and running out of dummy half on hopefully a fast play the ball occasionally. They're really the only options I can see them being able to score enough points to win. But their defense sucks shit, so it's not going to help them that much if they score 24 points, is it? So
yeah, it was just baffling. I'm like, I just couldn't understand how no attempt was made to change any game plan they had. A bit like we just talked about. There's no thinking on the fly with anything that happened there. But
yeah, well, the Sharks just thought that the Dogs would crack first, and that was never going to happen. And so that's what they lent into. There was no second phase play. Parramatta's been built on second phase play for however long, ever since Gutherson's been there with their big forwards. They're not doing it either. They need to.
Well, Youngie isn't a fact. Their fullback doesn't exist. Yeah, he doesn't play badly, but he doesn't exist.
Occasionally, he gets maybe 2 opportunities a game, and if he aces them both, they score a couple of tries.
And he looks good. That's not a knock on him, but what are they doing with him?
They need to be instructing the back rowers. If you've got an arm free, look for Youngie and tell the Youngie push up. Every time it looks like there's someone's running into space, make sure you're there.
Yeah,
Lomax, fucking play wherever you want, mate, but just make sure you're there to back up if someone's got an arm free.
He took no part. Last week, he was the best player in the field. This week, he took no part.
Yeah, jumped for a few bombs, but yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
took very little part. And Turbo looked gun shy from the start. Like he
I
didn't look
reckon the
like he
knock
was
happened
interested in being there. It looked like he was
yeah.
forced to be there. Like
But he and it's pointed out to me in the once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. We talk about the fullbacks hanging behind the ruck. He was standing in front of the ruck on half the play the balls. He was downtown for a lot of them because like don't even try.
yeah,
Uh,
he wasn't interested in being there, and I'm pretty sure he was forced to be there. To be honest, um, it came back to Parramatta wingers defending 15 meters infield. I don't know what the fuck their plan is defending that far infield. I get their up and slide, but it takes two passes and then you've got a 2-on-1 on the outside.
yeah,
Like you get a good pass from the dummy half and then your halfback just has to pass it and you've got an overlap. Like you can't defend that far in on the wing. Like
I still don't understand. As long as we've been doing this show, we said this about Parramatta, and I still don't understand how it's a thing. I still don't.
I understand maybe tackle one, tackle two when you know it's just going to be a front rower
Yeah,
running
yeah,
through the
yeah.
middle. But then you've got teams that will just go fuck it and put a kick in behind the winger and have Saab or, whoever fucking the fastest bloke you've got in your team chasing in behind. And you're that far off out of position that you're not going to get anywhere near the ball. You're going to get caught out every single time. Like, and as I said, it's just a good pass from dummy half and you've already got an overlap. Like, you can't defend like that these days. It doesn't work,
Yeah,
especially with the width of pass that the dummy halves are able to produce these days. Like they can get it halfway across the field from dummy half.
100%. You're only ever two passes from the sideline.
Yeah,
If you've got a good dummy half onto a DCE, there's two 20-meter passes in a heartbeat.
and they did. That's how they opened up with Saab going down there, and they did it on the other side of the field as well. Manly couldn't close the game out. They should have been probably 40 in front before Parramatta looked like coming back and scoring that last try, or last two tries, which made put some respectability into the team. But yeah, they never looked the danger of getting close to Manly in this game.
Dylan Brown's playing as almost like a lock now.
Yeah,
He just get like I said earlier.
for a centre, he's that
Yeah,
wide and
just
out of position, and
all he does is run. And how many tackles did you make? Give me a sec. He did do a amount of defensive work. It felt like, but it's only 22 tackles. Shouldn't say only, but yeah, I thought he did more than that to be honest. But he looked gassed to be honest. In the back end of that second half.
only three Parramatta players I thought were worth mentioning, and that was Hopgood, Paulo, and Offahengawi, who had a really good game in the
Had a
middle of
great
the
game in
field.
his 200th game. Yeah.
Um, the back four looked dangerous at times for the Manly side, but never really got huge amounts of opportunity. Hamoli took a while to get going, but once he got up and going, he was pretty good. But it was DCE that pulled the strings and created the opportunities for him to score the tries. So
Turns out he's pretty good at footy, that bloke.
it
You
was
reckon he's
nice
worth
that it
700 a
was
year?
only a slight boo that you could hear here and there, but
I
it was a pretty good. He got a standing ovation when he ran out, so he probably deserves it.
I watched the warm up because we thought we were waiting to see what happened, and he got cheered in the warm up. He got cheered running on, so and he had a great. I thought he had a great game. I thought he was
He's
outstanding.
brilliant. Yeah.
So I don't know. It seems like more and more shit's coming out. I don't know if Manly, if that derails the season. I don't know what it all means. Whether he's good enough, to just keep going. Whether it is the coach, which I don't think it is. I think
I
it's
don't think it's a coach. It looks like it's above the coach. But like at this point of the year, like they're in a decent position. The Manly just need to go. Okay, he's told us it's done. It's sorted.
end of story. Yeah,
It needs to be a peace offering of okay, DCE. Nobody's talking anymore. Let's just
yeah.
shut it down. I won't say anything. You don't say anything. Let's just get through. And he came out and said his plan is to try
He's
and win the comp this year with Manly. So
he's
that's what we're doing. We're all doing it together.
he's baby faced himself, and he's made the right tact
He
where,
has, yeah, absolutely.
where he's sort of
He's
made
pulled the
himself.
right strings.
Yeah, he's made the right strings, so I don't think he will get booed at all. But we'll see what the board does. It feels like now any other mud that comes out is going to come from the club, and it's just going to be reflect badly on them.
Yeah, well, it already has, and like they come out and tried to say their negotiations went a certain way, and Like it needs to either stop or you need to probably part ways. Like if you're going to keep throwing mud, just fucking move him on now.
What did he say? I think he said when the money comes out for next year, we'll see who's telling. Basically said we'll see who's telling porkies. Like that said, Roosters' money does count for double in most currencies. So yeah, and I suspect they're probably even money to sign him at this stage, but we'll see.
Looking that way, yeah. But Gus has said that we're not interested, so that generally means he's probably already signed him.
The only reason I wouldn't say that is that Sexton's going so well.
Yeah, and this probably happened 3 weeks ago.
That's true. I would suspect Chook's 2 years at the Roosters is what we're going to see.
DCE 3, Olakawatu 2. By the time he warmed up, I thought he did enough to get the 2 points, and I gave Offengowie the 1.
Yeah, give it a Joff, and he had a good game in his outing. A very good journeyman. And we wrapped up with Sunday evening, 26-24 Warriors over the Tigers. Unfortunately, but it was actually one of the better games of football of the week. And I think that perhaps we're sleeping a little bit on the Warriors after round one, and maybe that trial form isn't as far away as we thought it would be.
There's a few of these guys on the edges that we've never really heard about that look like they've definitely got something about them. Like Vaimunga, what's the guy that scored the try to clinch the game?
Halasimi.
Yeah, these guys look they've got something to offer, but I think Tigers probably got beaten for aggression early in the game.
Yeah.
First little bit.
They've started every game this year.
Yeah.
They've come out of the blocks pretty slow, but Pole and May tend to rest that back. Pole's having an outstanding year. Look, we've raved about Terrell May, but he's had a great start to the year.
Yeah, well, he beat 3 or 4 blokes and scored that first try that evened up the points.
Yeah.
Or even put the Tigers in front early. I'm not sure, but yeah, that the way he just brushed blokes off to score that first try for the Tigers was fantastic. But it was probably a couple of tries here. Like that's the difference between the Tigers. They put it together for 70 minutes, but there's that 10 minutes where they let in 2 really ugly soft tries, and
you know what the concerning
difference.
You know what the concerning about this is it's the same sort of game they've lost for the last 3 years, where they'll be in the game and then just fuck it up at the end. And I could see it, as soon as Jareem's try was disallowed, I could see it coming. Like they're going to fuck something. They're going to give away a penalty in such a close game, and it's exactly what happened.
Well, the first tries were just like barge overs, weren't they, from the Warriors? And that's
barge over from Pompey, out wide. Actually, both.
And another one in the middle. The second one, I'm pretty
sure.
Corey
under, yeah.
The barge over in the middle, and if you stop those 2 just through attitude or making sure that you're in the right spot, that's a completely different game. Tigers go out to a big lead, but they let in those 2 tries early, unfortunately, and then they somehow. I don't know how a fucking bloke that big moves as well as Halasima did down that right edge, but Jesus Christ.
You just burn him. Like, yeah. How the fact it happened annoyed me, but it was very impressive.
Oh, not many people are going to stop you. Good luck stopping that.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was very impressive. I thought Latu Fainu looked great coming on. So we'll start from the start. Latu Fainu looked great coming on. Interesting at 7, but it's very hard to now tackle Brisbane next week with 2 19-year-old halves. But
I thought Tigers did well to absorb a lot of pressure early,
which has happened the last 3 weeks, and they definitely have.
Like a big part of that first half, the Warriors were on the front foot, pushing through the middle, getting the ball out to the edges, and they defended extremely well at times. But there was just those 2 opportunities early where they should have shut it down and didn't, and that led to points. And then you're chasing the game a little bit. They did really well to get themselves back in. Like Galvin's just proven himself week in, week out. Like he can't do everything, but what he does as a ball player is fantastic.
Yeah,
like the way he's able to stand players up, draw defenders, even get defenders on their heels, and then get the ball out to the guys that are able to, create the opportunities after he's given them the ball. But he just puts them in the right position to be able
And he
to do
finally
that.
got that grubber right, which he's been trying a year for Fatape for the try. I thought Luai took too much. He still took too much of a backseat at times.
Done it all year.
And yeah, like he's trying to put Galvin in the spotlight, but you signed $1 million, you need to take charge at times. Like he should be games like this. Your $1 million halfback needs to win you the game.
Of course, yeah.
And it didn't happen. But that said,
did take
if
a couple
didn't
of
fucking kick that last minute ball into touch, maybe we're half a chance. But his defense has been fantastic. But apart from the high shot, I thought like Luai's attitude and defense has been outstanding. I cannot fault him.
And there's been a few times where the Tigers have sort of been looking around going, what do we do now? And he's just gone, fuck it. I'm going to kick long. And we're going to go down there and tackle.
Yeah. And
that's a decision that's made.
Yeah.
By him, and the team go with him.
Yeah.
But
and Appy did a bit of that in this back end of this game. He's like, we'll try and turn it with defense. Kick
just when once Galvin gets shut down on that right side, I just want to see him search a little bit more. Take players with tell them, come with me, like one on each shoulder, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
It might lead to nothing, but he's just not general. He's not giving the orders to his pieces as much as you'd want to see out of him.
Yeah, that's funny. My son went out to this game with a friend, and he came home and he said, "Dad, Luai went two side to side. He needs to run straight, like you tell me." So maybe he's got something there.
Quite possibly
in all of that. But
even if you're going sideways, you still need people to be able to come with you to provide opportunities.
Right. Yeah.
I mean? So, and that's on him to call them, and whatever their calls are, which is blue, which is second man on the left, or one on each shoulder, which whatever calls they use. But
yeah. These Warriors, both these teams would have beaten half the comp if they played this way. I reckon. I'm pretty bullish on that. If they'd played half the comp the way they did in this game, they both win. So I think Warriors are better than we're given credit for. Wade Egan, tremendous start of the year, and I was pushing his barrow for Origin last year, but if he stays fit, him and Appy should be the two in the conversation come Origin, because I'm not sure Reece Robson's still with us, but he had a good game. Chance, tremendous again. Very good at falling into Alex Seyfarth's shoulder. Good on him. But he had a great game. Scary outside backs. Metcalf growing into his role and looked better these last 2 weeks than we thought he did in the first two, I would suggest. What do you make of the Warriors?
Yeah, well, they've got plenty of work through the middle of the field. Still a little bit concerned about the way that their halves are able to create shape for their outside men.
It's very much they're just a better Canberra. It's very much, let's shovel a ball out there and hope they're big and strong enough to
exactly try to get a one-on-one and then hope that works in our favor.
Yeah.
Whereas
and they're big and strong enough to do it most weeks, whereas unfortunately Canberra aren't.
You don't see them putting guys through holes untouched as often as you probably would hope. But yeah, Metcalf's kicking game's getting a little bit better. Still, even both teams, like Buller was decent, but you still probably hope to see a little bit more out of him. Just injecting himself in different positions. He
hasn't been as direct, like through the dummy half. Like him and Talon De Silva could be a great combination.
And Chance is probably the opposite. He's probably a bit too direct, where there's times where you want to see him pass or try to get somebody else involved, and he doesn't, and the play shuts down with him. So
yeah. Anything else from this game? We're 2 hours in. I'm just trying to think of things to say. Terrell May's a freak. He's outstanding. Played 8 minutes here. Polly, I mentioned. Seyfarth has had a good start to the year, just getting through his work as much as he has to. But that's, I guess, what the Tigers are doing. The Tigers are doing a good job of not getting Benji sacked, really.
You could have Egan 3, May 2, and Polly 1. Yeah,
let's go with that. Why not? That's been Footy and Frothies. We need to do the salute slaps and pop plants. You got a pop plant? You have a break. No. Righto, Barn. You got a pop plant for us?
Jaden Sullivan.
Okay.
from South. I know they won, but he looked like an absolute pedestrian out there for South Sydney. He took very little part, and the parts that he did play, he generally fucked them up and didn't do anything good in the 20 odd 30 minutes that he was out there. They missed tackles, got spotted up in defence, couldn't hold the ball, gave people hospital passes. Like he should be finding himself out of that side before
Well,
anybody else in
Latrell
that
back,
South
and there's
Sydney
a
team.
show. There'll be a follow-on from all of that. So we'll see how that plays out. KOX for me, at least a pot plant might be half a chance of a ball getting stuck in it at some point. So we'll go go with that. A slap, a slap. You got one?
I do. I've got Ronaldo Mulatalo and Lomax. Between them,
Okay.
11 errors. Every time they touched the fucking thing, every second time they touched it, they dropped it. And when they didn't drop it, they didn't do much else with the ball in their hands. So for two guys that have been excelled at under the high ball and created all sorts of opportunities to go out and put those two performances in, they were rubbish.
I'm going to slap Reed Barney. Just something to do because someone's got to. And I'm going to salute. We'll come home with. You know what? Controversial. I'm going to salute Daly Cherry Evans because I thought he had an outstanding game on Sunday amidst all the noise. I think he's handled himself fairly well without knowing the full story, and I could be on the wrong side of history. But it looks like he's going to just go about his business and get the job done week in, week out. And I think that takes a bit of. It's easy when they're going to pay you $1,000,000 to do it, but easy. We'll see how that goes for the rest of the year. But I think credit to him for what he's done. What about yourself?
I've got a triple dog salute, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, they were
Their
my
attitude
yeah,
in defence and attack, the way they turn up for each other. Sexton's kicking boot and the way that he was able to just turn the Sharks around time and time again. And Jacob Preston, for the amount of work he got through and the way he was able to score points for that Bulldogs team. I
better than
thought everything
go
that
back
they
if you
did
haven't seen
was
it. Go
good.
back and watch those highlights and watch the Sherry try where he just holds up and pops that ball in the line. That is as good a try assist as you'll see.
Yep.
Very good. That's been our review as I peek my mic there. We're going to take it home, Bar. Thank you. Thanks, Ollie, wherever he's gone. Fuck knows if he'll be back at some point. And we'll be previewing round 5 very soon. Take care, guys. Talk soon.